Well, welcome. We've got Frank Kidenya here today. Frank and I have actually known each other for many years. I haven't been in touch for some time. It was great to hear from you recently. And I invited him on the show for a couple of reasons. He's just launched his own a new practice. He's gone out on his own, left a firm, and his business is called Elevation Private Wealth, which is fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And also,
Me, by the way, so it's
sorry?
been thank you for inviting me. It's been a while.
It has. You actually started your journey in your career a couple of years before me.
Yeah.
And in those early days, you mentored me a little bit and helped me get through some of those assignments. So remember.
And I remember, you had your firstborn and I think your secondborn, and I was number 2 or 3, and at the same time the GFC was happening as well. So it was quite an interesting time for the both of us, actually.
It was.
Yeah.
And you were at, was it Commonwealth?
At the time I was working for Commonwealth Bank.
Yes, and I was at St. George.
Yeah, and then I went to they call Link Advice now, which is basically an industry fund giving advice to super fund members, and so
fantastic.
And here we are.
And here we are. And I want you to, just before we start, because first of all, the reason why I invited you is that you've gone through an accident not too long ago and being the recipient of a claims process. And given that you're an advisor and you advocate insurance through insurance advice, which is part of the financial plan, protection is all part of getting you from A to B. You've also, that's what actually got me to think, I've got to get you on the show to share your experience and how that's changed the way you do give advice around insurance, given that you've been through that process. But I also want to talk to you more about your, business and where you're taking it, because I can see in the background there you've got this great logo, Elevation. And when I saw that, I was like, I've got to hear more about that, because we all take our clients on a journey. And I can see just visually that you've really thought about that journey for your clients. Can you share with me how you came about Elevation? I've lost you. Oh, there you go.
Sorry.
That's okay. COVID times. Internet's not the best at the moment.
Hey, Amy.
That's right. We can edit that. That's so good.
Well, the wonders of the NBN, hey?
Oh, I know. Sorry, there we go. Okay, so did you catch that question?
Yeah, so the question was really around elevation and why elevation. So elevation is really, the whole idea is about moving forward, and it's about progress through each and every time in your life. So for me, I've been through a lot in my life, and I feel like at the end of each season, I've always come out better and stronger. And that's what I want to do for my clients. I want to partner with them to make sure that every single day we're making small steps towards achieving their goal effectively. And the key thing for me is that partnering with them is very, very critical. So it's about having strong relationships, right? And it's about knowing what's really important to them, and what's important to them becomes important to me as well. And basically using my skills to help them get to where they want to get to.
Yeah. I was speaking with another advisor yesterday on the actual topic of the relationship between the client and advisor. Some practices will offer chunks of advice along the way. whereas other advisors want to have the long-term relationship. And I'm one of those, and it sounds like you're very much the same, is we're in it for the long haul. We want to get them from where they are now, and looking at your logo, get them up that mountain, sort of Sherpa them up.
Exactly. And if I look at my experience, I've worked for, the major banks, and now I work for private, smaller businesses. And what tends to happen after a few years, you have, you have a strong relationship with a client, and then something changes, whether it's the royal commission or somebody's not making enough profit, or so you've always, your relationship with a client is always influenced by external factors. So for me, elevation is about taking that away and saying, you know what, I'm here next to you. I'm your coach, and
Mm-hmm.
you're the star, the superstar in the team, and how can we, both win, over the long term. So yeah, that's what elevation's about.
It's a show me the money kind of moment, isn't it?
Well, for most clients, they're paying you a fee, and they're saying, well,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, what am I getting for what am I paying?
Yeah.
Do I have the lifestyle that I've been telling you I want to have, and how you help me get the lifestyle?
I love it. I
Am
love
I
it.
paid off that mortgage that you promised I'm going to pay off? We often do these projections saying, hey, look, if you do this, you're going to get there, but it's about proving it and actually helping them get to where they want to get to.
Mm.
Yeah.
And protecting them along the way, obviously.
Well, from personal experience, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the other reason why I wanted you on the show, is that, we talk about the importance of, say, income protection or trauma cover and life and TPD and estate planning, and looking at, we've got the insurance there to protect, and then you've got the wealth creation as well.
Yeah.
And hopefully over time, you're reducing the sums insured of their life and TPD potentially, because they've got their assets as they're growing, their wealth. But you hope that they don't have to use their insurance, but the premium there is a true investment if they did need to use it.
Yeah.
And you've had to go through, unfortunately, an experience. Do you mind just telling me what actually happened, first of all, about your accident?
So let me maybe tell you how this got started, right? So I moved from ANZ, and I was working for a different company, and that was about in 2018. And one of my goals was really just to make sure that I'm physically fit, right? Because I found, being an advisor, working a desk, you tend to put on the spread, right? And you become fairly unhealthy. So I thought, look, the easiest way for me to get fit, I'm only 10 kilometers away from work, right? And at that point in time, they were building the light rail. So it was actually taking about an hour on the bus to get into work. So I thought, you know what, let me get on my bike, right, every day, and ride without fail into work. And by the end of the year, you have a level of fitness, which is what I did. So I got on my bike, and I was riding into work for an entire year. Loved it. Lost a whole bunch of weight. Became super fit. Got really, really into cycling. That became a massive passion of mine. But then after the Christmas break, 2019 last year, we had our seventh child. So that was in January. Seventh child, yeah, I know. That's what happens when you're living in close quarters, right?
You don't have a TV.
Well,
what they say.
I literally don't have a TV anymore, right? Because they take it.
That's true, actually. Yeah. I've got 4, so you guys have definitely exceeded me there.
Absolutely. So look, I am. So basically, a month after we had our firstborn, was 6th of Feb, and I am cycling into work, going past a school zone out of all places in a bike lane, and unfortunately, the cars next to me had stopped, and there was a car oncoming towards us that was turning right. So she was a nurse. She turned right, and she crossed the traffic and crossed the bike lane. Did not see me. I did not see her, and I've gone T-bone into her.
Ouch.
So yes. So from that day, literally, I mean, the story that I'm telling you is what people have told me. I only remember getting on my bike in the morning because I live next door to a police officer. And he said to me, Frank, just be careful out there. I remember that him saying that to me. And then the next memory I have is waking up 2 days later in hospital, basically, from surgery. Yeah.
Oh my
Mm.
gosh. And your wife was a month. Ruth was 1 month off having the baby.
Literally a month off.
Oh,
Exactly a month off. Yeah. So, look, there was some pretty serious injuries that you can tell my speech is I'm still working, recovering from that. But effectively, had some major facial injuries. My jaw was pretty much fractured, almost falling off my face, and
God.
the police officer at the scene had a photo. They had to remove my teeth from the roof of the car, so it was pretty bad.
Oh my God. Oh gosh. Okay. Um,
Pretty traumatic.
it sounds traumatic. So you obviously had some time off work
Yeah,
because of
yeah,
this.
yeah. So it took me a good 4 months before I was actually able to go back into work. Went back to work really in a part-time capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So from literally from about July to about October, I was only doing part-time. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So it
So
didn't take long.
yeah, and there's something I always say to clients is, that some people might be able to go back to work. They might not ever be able to go back to work full time. And that's where I always make sure that my clients are covered to retirement. Like even though you might claim, in your case, you claim for a
Correct.
part of a year for your income protection.
Yeah.
If something had gone far worse for you, God forbid, something more sinister, maybe short-term memory loss or something, you would have needed that cover to take you all the way through to retirement so that subsidized your lost income.
Yeah, and I think the experience that I had, and looking back now, that there are so many other variables that we often don't think about, right? So yes, my income was replaced, yeah, great, but I still had other costs, right? So you go into hospital, they fix you, but you then still have other stuff you got to deal with. I still have reconstruction that needs to take place for my jaw. Who pays for that?
Mm.
Right? I still have to go to a physio. Who pays for that? Right? I still, from the whole trauma, right? I need to see a psychologist who pays for that, and these things happen long after the actual incident, right? And that's the kind of things that I'm finding out now, making sure that when I'm talking to my clients about insurances or the risk they can actually face, it's not just about, hey, you need to replace your income. It's about what else are we not thinking about and we need to provide for that potentially could, so you can end up needing effectively. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so, do you mind just sharing some of those findings
Mm.
out of your experience of what you actually look for and insure and consider when you're looking at a protection plan?
Yeah. So for me, as a guy, I mean, we have a tendency to, want to provide for our families. So the one thing I found myself was really I wanted to get back to work very quickly. Right now, that was a two-edged sword for me. And this is what I mean by that. And I know from the claim stats, the longer you stay at home, or the longer you're away from work, the less likely you are to return back to work. So I knew that basically as I'm recovering, I knew, hey, I need to get back to work. I need to get back to work, right?
And that's more because of the mental health aspect.
That's because of mental health aspect. Even though
Mm.
physically I couldn't do that, right? And so the first thing is for me, what I'm looking at now is if we're talking about income protection insurance, right? Looking at policies that is there a rehab? Are they going to pay for rehab? Are they going to pay for re-education? All those types of things actually end up being quite important, effectively. The other aspect to this is that I had to hire an occupational therapist as well, because my back was hurt. Now how do I now sit? All those things that you never think about become really super important. For me, as a financial advisor, right, my ability to talk is very important, right? So, so if I'm still, making sure that I've got a device in my mouth at the moment, but having to learn to speak again is very critical, and also how you look becomes very important. I mean, I had 5 teeth missing, and talking to clients with missing teeth is not very attractive, right? So there's all these things that you never really think about that become very, very important effectively. And that's looking things from my side, right? And then I look at things from my wife, right? So my wife, got a brand new baby, your 7th child, your husband is injured, seriously injured, and effectively money stops, income stops coming in. Right now, she has to manage the household, the welfare of the kids, their mental health as well. At the same time, look after me, making sure that I'm recovering well. Right. So there's all this type of things that you never think about that actually end up being quite impactful for your whole world. I had to rely on my extra family to come in and make sure that I couldn't get up and cut the grass, right? So somebody had to come and help me with that. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's just so much on then.
It's a lot. There's a lot happens. But for me mentally, I was thinking I need to get back to work. I need to get back to work. Because my thinking was, if I don't get back to work, I'm going to lose my clients. Who's going to look after them? So yeah, and also the financial well-being of my family as well. That came to mind too. So.
And so when looking at the claims process and the cost of all of this, so
Yeah.
and obviously you're getting claim from the income protection.
Yeah.
You raised some really important questions. Who pays for the other therapies? Who's paying for your occupational therapist? Who's paying for the extra surgeries? So there's other insurances that come to play when an accident like this occurs.
Exactly. Yeah, and this, I mean, a lot of people say to me, a lot of clients, well, I'm paying for a lot of insurances, right? Yet I'm getting nothing out of it, right? So I had this experience when I was checking out discharge is what I'm looking for. And
was it really a hotel?
well, so you get in discharged, and the question they ask you is, well, who do we send the invoice to? Now, for me, I was admitted to St. Vincent's, right? I didn't get to choose whether I'm going to go to public or private because I was unconscious, right? And typically, so you'll say, well, who do I send the invoice to? I'm like, well, I thought Medicare covers that. Well, they only cover you if you're not at fault, right? Yeah, Medicare covers but the insurance company still had to pay for those costs, right? Somebody has to pay for all of that. So that becomes very, very important. And also thinking about, coming back into work, right? What happens if I get re-injured? Who pays for that? It all becomes very, very, very cumbersome for a lot of people. So for me, number one is thinking about with my clients. Okay, so let's say your income stops now, right? What do you need to have? Like, what are the most important things that you need to have? And with this virus, I think it's proven to us that most of us don't actually have enough savings to last more than a month, right?
Yeah, or even less.
Even less, right? So number one, can you wait more than a month? If you had extra medical bills that, 20, 30, 40, $50,000, can you cover those? It's actually starting in that place and making sure that, what policies can we have in place to make sure if X happens, well, there's enough liquid funds available for you to survive that, right? Let alone thinking about going back into work, right? To survive that initial shock, right? That becomes very important.
Yeah.
Often as advisors, we talk about to our clients, well, hey, let's increase your waiting period to make sure that the policy becomes affordable. Well, that's good, but can the client survive 3 months without money coming in, right? do they have, I mean, my surgeries was in excess of $80,000, right?
Wow.
So I can tell you I didn't have $80,000 to pay for that.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, insurance covered for that, but I haven't got that kind of money. So yeah.
Which insurances would cover for that? You had your
So,
income
so
protection, private
right,
health insurance,
yeah. So
trauma
in this
cover?
instance, yeah, because this was a motor vehicle accident, third party covers for most of my medical,
Mm-hmm.
but it only covers that for a period of time, right? After that period of time, then that stops. Then you have to pay for that yourself.
Right, that's really good for people to know that, because third party isn't something that we would give advice on. It's it comes with our motor vehicle insurance. It's part of our registration. So the lady who hit you, that would be her insurance to
The her
cover
insurance pays for that. You're correct.
because she's injured you.
Yeah.
So you really need to have a backup plan for these particular rainy days. This is something I've been talking about a lot because COVID-19 is another rainy day, is a perfect example, but we don't know if we're going to step out tomorrow. God forbid something happens, an accident like that. You're doing the right thing, just riding to work, being healthy, and get hit by a car. And then the ramifications has been a very expensive process.
Absolutely. And
Now,
by the way, and that was because she was at fault,
yes,
right? What happens if I was at fault or if I was partially at fault?
these are really good questions for
Right.
people to think. I mean, I don't want people to think, oh my God, I'm going to be in an accident, but it's great to think financially, where am I positioned if the
Exactly.
worst day happened?
Exactly. Yep.
And I often ask my clients, what is the comfortable amount that you like to sit in your safety net? Like, what is your trampoline? We've got, I sort
Yep.
of do this little diagram and go, okay, if you would have a fall, what is that amount, that cushion that's going to catch you financially?
Yeah.
Are you comfortable? Some people go, I'm not comfortable with anything less in my bank account than 20,000. And that's all because that's something that they've saved for, they know it's achievable, and they can stay there. But is that enough?
Well,
That's now what you're bringing to the table. Is that enough?
and COVID-19 tells me it's not enough,
Mm-hmm.
and not just for people. I mean, companies. I mean, I'm thinking of a Virgin Australia, and if people are living month by month, they were certainly living month by month, right? So so you can't. I think I mean, I was away for 4 months, and then went back part time for another 4 months. So that's literally 8 months when my income was, yes, the insurance replaced it, but effectively, I couldn't, as a family, if I was self-employed, for instance, you can't stop work for 8 months and expect your business to survive, right? So,
Yeah, it's very,
um,
very difficult, especially with what we do.
yeah,
But I mean, I can't understand how any business could survive like that. So
yeah,
there has to be some level of insurance to cover us as the key person
absolutely.
cover, to bring someone in for
Exactly.
that period of time.
Exactly right. Yeah. Yeah. And then, I mean, then there's the psychological impact, right? Now, because I mean, you and I are talking about this from being advisors, right? But the reality is, I remember living through all of this,
Mm.
and the money was one thing I was worried about. How is my family going to survive? But more so, I'm thinking, well, how are my kids going to treat me after this? Because for good 3 months, they couldn't hug me because I was in pain, right? So
Mm.
um, so you're thinking, oh, how are my kids? Are they going to be well? How's my wife? Is she doing well? And also for me, as a guy, you tend to withdraw because you can't do anything. You can't get yourself involved in the family life. You tend to withdraw. So it does have a massive impact on you psychologically and your family. So to me, having, I guess, knowing, okay, at least I'm getting money coming in to pay for my bills, that kind of took a bit of stress away from having to worry about the money aspect. I could now focus, okay, making sure my kids are well, making sure my wife is doing well, and making sure that I'm recovering well as well, and making sure that my mental health is spot on too.
So going forward, I guess your claims process will be
Yeah,
very driven on more coaching and sort of a really holistic approach to looking after your client from all those aspects. How are you feeling? How's your wife coping? You know, the whole bigger picture, as opposed to here's the
yeah,
forms, I'll fight for you. Because I know I've been in that role as an advisor and I've gone,
yeah, yeah.
this is what we need to do. And I do have that, you know, I obviously care about the client and go, how are you feeling? But you've actually got this experience now where you are sort of sharing that we really need to delve far deeper into the process than just the payment process and everything, because there's so much more involved and long after the claim has been
Long enough
paid.
time, absolutely. And I think and this is where clients really value an advisor who cares more about just making sure they've got money, right? You know, my advisor cares about what's the well-being of my kids, with the well-being of my family, and
Mm-hmm.
they're there to help me and support me. I mean, just to give an idea, the amount of paperwork that we think about, um, there's 10 times more, right? We think about, getting a doctor's report is quite easy. Well, actually, it's not, right?
Yep.
I mean, I was seeing, 6 different professionals, and they all had different things they were worried about,
Yep.
right? Now, imagine getting all of that information together in the one place, so that an insurance assessor can actually make a decision on a claim. It's pretty hard. But as an advisor, you can actually coordinate all of that, right? And making sure
Yep.
that, so you can really add value to your clients doing it that way, having been through the process.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
I was on a panel with a few other advisors and we discussed this, the claims process. And because I had gone through a claim not too long before, and I felt as an advisor that they would go direct to the client, and that was not ideal. It's such a stressful time.
yeah,
I'm supporting and providing this service to the client. Come to me, let me look after it. Let me not worry them with that paperwork. Let me decipher what information and how to gather that information. Then I've got it all together. Go to the client, sign here, let me take care of it. That's the process that I want to deliver for my clients, but it doesn't always work like that from
no,
an advice point of view either.
not always. Yeah, and the other part as well, and this is more of an issue from the medical professional as well. For me, I found that to get the best treatment, I had to ask the right questions, right? And if you don't know the right questions to ask, you are not going to get the best treatment,
Right.
right? So now, as an advisor, I mean, you can't, you're not a medical professional, so you can't, you can't tell your client what questions to ask, but you can certainly help them, making sure that, have they gotten, are there other doctors that can be speaking to? Is there any other specialists that can be speaking to make sure that they're getting a complete picture
Mm-hmm.
on what they need to be doing? Yeah, and often, again, I mean, for me, I was quite lucky, in a sense that I got treated by, one of the top plastic surgeons in Australia, and he had if it wasn't for him, he had quite a good network of other professionals that he works with, that he was able to refer me to. If it wasn't for that, I would not have gotten the same medical care, right? So that's, I mean, I'm not sure how I can add value as an advisor there, but
Mm.
certainly you can get involved and just making sure the client, have they explored all the different options available to them, for the best healthcare. So yeah.
I think just one advantage that you have, Frank, is that you've gone through this yourself. And so when you are talking about um, insurance and if a claim occurs, the fact is the client would know your story from just being your client. And then they can go, okay, Frank's been down this path. He's sat in this seat. He's been, he's walked in these shoes, so to speak, so that he'll be able to give me some guidance along the way. So that, unfortunately, you had to go through it, but it's now the blessing out of that, I
Learn
guess.
about it. Yeah, yeah, and it does change the conversation from being about, hey, I'm about to sell you insurance, into talking about, okay, well, what's really important to you, and let's make sure that we have plans in place that if anything, that we can't see actually happens, we've got some safety nets in place, and and I'm there to support you to make sure that, number one, not only financially survive that situation, but you're also in a much stronger place to move forward, not just financially, but making sure that your family, your kids are looked after, and all that kind of stuff as well. So
Yeah.
very critical.
I think in terms of that, because some of, especially now, I had clients contact me going, income protection, I need to change it. I need to change my wait period, because we were in COVID-19 and they're starting to really consider their financial position more so than ever. And I noticed that that was also the same thing back when, back during the GFC, pretty much when I went straight out as an advisor. We were incredibly busy, especially around the insurance front. It really does bring it to the front of mind. But there's also the concern of the cost of it. So what you're basically sharing is we've really got to create a financial plan around the what ifs. So it's sort of like a miniature plan within the bigger plan. So a savings strategy as well as the underlying investment in insurance.
Yeah. And look, and I totally understand the cost, right? And that I get it. You're gonna pay for it, and unfortunately for a lot of people, it's a cost, and it's not, you don't get a return out of it, right? But as an advisor, thinking about, okay, so how can I make sure that the client pays lowest possible cost? Well, that's two things for me. Number one, it starts from the very first conversation, right? If a client gets the insurances early, we should be advocating level premiums, because I guarantee you, I haven't spoken. I mean, I haven't looked at the figures, but I guarantee you, most people, we have conversations about the cost of insurances when they hit that 50, mid 50s. That's when we're having those discussions.
Yeah.
And it tells me we didn't actually have a good discussion earlier on, right? That's the first thing. The second thing, okay, the classic one, let's change your waiting periods to maybe 90 days to lower the cost. Okay, that's fine, great. But what is the plan to make sure that they've got a cash reserve to protect them for those 90 days, right? And it's just having that deeper discussion, making sure that, effectively, to use Warren Buffett's words, they've got a fortress, right? Financially, they're living in a fortress, and most things have been planned for. And and making sure that financially they're secure, but more so, it's not for them, right? It's for their families, right? So
that's it. That's now the why.
Yeah.
Why would we be spending all this money? Why would we be creating that plan within the plan, so to speak, to make sure that there's a safety net that I don't ever touch?
Yeah. Here I am on a couch, bitten up, with the face is falling apart. And what I'm worried about is making sure that my kids don't remember me like this. Make sure that they are well, that they're looked after. That and thank God that I look at. I mean, it's hard to tell what's going on, but we haven't had any major dramas. School has been wonderful. They're still doing really well. They've got good friendships. So if I look at things, they're still doing quite well. But every now and again, I would have a conversation with one of my daughters, and they'll be like, "Oh, I really thought you were gonna die," right? So all this stuff really can have a major impact. So for me, it's basically about making sure, okay, my family is looked after, and I am able to look after them really well. And if it wasn't for the insurance, well, probably I would have been back at work pretty quickly, and and just really missed creating a stable family environment after that. So
yeah, and probably also struggling with a slower recovery if you push yourself too hard.
Yeah. But then the other part as well. So we've spoken about the initial impact, right? And then there is the ongoing stuff, right? the ongoing stuff is stuff that we can't really think about. I mean, the classic one I'm thinking about is, and I'll use this slightly because, I mean, you know, let's call it cancer. For most women, it's breast cancer. There's typically surgery that goes on beyond that. But, you know, for me, I need to get my face reconstructed, and that will cost money. Just for me to feel like, okay, well, I'm like my old self again, right?
Yeah.
Just for having confidence in how I look and how I speak and how I sound. And that will cost money. And that is elective, right? It's not, so they've repaired me to a place where I can function, but anything beyond that is out of my own pocket, right?
Right.
And this is the stuff that we never think about, right? Yeah, so
It's actually interesting because you're right. In terms of cancer, cancer is a great example. Is
yeah,
that you go? I had a friend who had um, cancer come back a few times, and
yeah,
she had to have a double mastectomy. She's younger than me,
yeah,
and so you've got the radiation, and you've got
yeah,
the surgery, and you've got other treatments, and then there's also diet and other things that you've got to, and getting your health back. But
yeah,
then there's also the psychologists and the she's psychiatrist, so she's actually had to, because it really changes you physically. She lost part of her body, like physically it's changed your face.
yeah.
They do have such big impacts on us, not just financially. There's
And,
massive costs, but it's
yeah,
emotional, and
absolutely.
that's stuff that is really hard to measure in the long-term picture.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a classic one is for me, you know, just a simple thing of kissing my wife, right? I'm thinking, hey, honey, am I, you know, like I've got teeth missing. Do you still love me the same way as? eh, eh, so small little things, but they can actually have a massive impact, and you need to talk to somebody about those, and
Mm.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's really interesting because you've brought to light a lot of things that we wouldn't consider. I mean, yes, we talk about our mental health.
yeah,
It's everywhere. There's a lot of news about mental health, especially now during COVID when people are in isolation. But when you don't, when we're talking about something like an accident, a traumatic event, and we're talking about a claim from an advisor point of view, often the claim is actually physical injury like yourself. It wasn't a mental health claim, totally different.
correct.
Whereas there are mental health claims that you can do that. Could this had you not been so, because you were very diligent in getting that support straight away because you knew statistically how things worked within the claims process and in how insurance worked? Could you have gone down that road had you not jumped on it earlier and ended up making mental health insurance claims because of this problem, because of this
Without a
accident?
doubt. Without a
Yeah.
doubt. What I can tell you, and again, I'm speaking from a man. I think us men, we are pretty weak compared to women, right? After being at home for about a month, um, yeah, I started to lose the sense of who I am, right? In terms of, and I'm at home, and my wife is looking after me, and I'm like, she should not be looking after me. I should be out there. So you start feeling sorry for yourself. You start feeling pretty worthless pretty quickly, and because you're not going out there every day and doing something and getting meaning out of it, you can end up in a hole pretty quickly.
Mm.
So without a doubt, I mean, I got to a point where I got up in the morning and I had to have a plan of what I was going to do that day. Just get out of the house and go for a walk. Like
Hmm.
it came down to those simple things, right? And but that was more of a conscious effort for me, knowing I don't want to be in that hole. I need to make sure that I don't end up there. um,
Yeah.
yeah, and look, I've got support, which is great, but um, I can only imagine, somebody who, let's say, you're working for yourself, you're a builder or something like that. You break your back, where you physically can't actually do what you used to be able to do before, right? I'm quite lucky, I sit in a chair and stare at a screen all day, so it's quite a different different type of work, but I can only imagine people who have much more physical jobs than I have, right? That it's quite, yeah, without a doubt. If I didn't go back to work, without a doubt, it would have been a mental health claim.
And that's exactly why the importance of getting the right advice and getting an advisor to be kind of coach you through that. The value you're giving your clients is incredible, because you're going to sort of help them get back on their feet only because of the experience you've gone through, and stop that, further deterioration, because that's basically what would happen. And now going forward, so do you write articles? Are you speaking about this at this point, or are you looking to do so?
Yeah, look, I'm going to do a lot more of this, and the plan, and I want to have more of a human element to it. I don't want to tell people about, hey, you need to get income protection, you need to get all of these type of policies. It's more about having human experiences of what's actually happened, and making sure people understand that, hey, we need to have a conversation about, what risks lie for you that can have an impact for you financially, and then let's have a plan on how we're going to manage those. And then so that's really the conversation about the risks and how we're going to manage those, and having that discussion first with my clients.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing all of this information today. What I'm going to be doing is putting on, when we publish this podcast, we're going to have this up on our website, so everyone can actually get in contact with you if they are interested to reaching out to you. I recommend anyone to seek advice, whether it be me or you. There is no competition here, because everybody deserves a good advisor. So in the meantime, how do people get in contact with you? Are you on Facebook, Twitter, in LinkedIn, Instagram?
I am on LinkedIn. I am not yet on Instagram. I'm about to go on Instagram. Same with Twitter, same with Facebook. I do have a website, elevationprivatewealth.com. So you can find me on there. And but I'm about to update all my socials. That way I'm out there and people know my story and they know what I'm about. So
Fantastic.
Well,
thank you.
Definitely, website is definitely the best way to get in touch with me.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. And if anyone does have any questions and they want to get in touch, they can go to your website, or they can reach out to me. But I think we'll be hearing more of you anyway. I think this is what you're doing is fantastic.
Yep, wonderful.